Ohio high school football. It's a juggernaut each and every week. I'm going to take you on an inside look at the high school coaching world. In the world of high school coaching, there is far more than what people see after 7 p.m. on a Friday night. This is the Coach's Approach.
Welcome to The Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is The Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is The Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Coach's Approach podcast. I'm George Gresco. Welcome, everybody. Today in the coach's booth, we have Coach Damion Creel, head coach of the Lorain High School, home of the Titans. For episode 3, catching up with Creel. Coach Creel, welcome.
Appreciate it. I'm humbled to be here.
It's going to be a good show. Before we get started, I need to shout out our sponsors, Anthony's Family Restaurant in Eastlake on the corner of 91 and Vine Street, where together is our favorite place to be. Open for dine-in, carry-out, and curbside pickup. G&G Printing, where your custom apparel in 7 to 10 days or less. Dominate your design. Also, if there's anyone out there willing to sponsor the podcast, please message us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Again, Coach Creel, welcome. I want to get right into your first head coaching job. You come home to coach our alma mater, Beachwood High School, home of the Bison. You were hired at Beachwood in June of 2015. Talk a little bit about how that transpired, because that's a late hire in June.
Yeah, it was a real late hire. I was actually going to be an assistant coach at Cleveland Heights, and I was applying for jobs here and there, and I always got that response back at the end of the interviews. You know, we're looking for someone with experience.
Sure.
And the Beachwood thing came open. Reached out to the AD. We talked and went through the formal interview process, and I got hired. So it happened quick. It was late. Getting together a staff was absolutely horrendous, but I was able to put together a great staff, and it lasted 6 years.
Sure. And in your 6-year span as Beachwood's head football coach, you compiled a record of 26-32. But in your final 3 seasons, you win 20 out of 27 games. That's a hell of a span. How was that possible?
Just work, man. Grinding, coming in on Saturdays, the off season. It's a payoff for the kids and what the work they put in. And Beachwood doesn't have that much talent consistently. So, the off season, starting after Martin Luther King Day, lifting. You coaching at Cardinal, being a small school, you understand that all kids aren't available to work out. So you have to be creative when you to get every kid to work out. So a lot of hard days, and we definitely took the stairs.
Sure.
We didn't take no elevator to get to where we wanted to be, and we took our lumps. It's kind of crazy because when I got the job, they were in the smaller division of the CBC, and Coach Gibbons was having some success. And right when I took the job, we bumped up playing Perry, West Juice,
Kirtland's,
all the Kirtlands and stuff like that. So, we took our lumps, and I think it made us. That was the fruits of our labor in those last 3 years, going to 20-7.
Sure. Beachwood makes the playoffs in 2019 and 2020, ending Beachwood's 11-year playoff drought. As a 1994 graduate of Beachwood, talk about what that meant to you in your coaching career.
It meant a lot playing there. We always talked about it with the crew I went to high school with. And back then, it was the top 4 teams go. I remember a team, Aurora, they went 10-0 and didn't even make the playoffs. So, it was real tough back then.
That's a lot different than now. There's top 16 teams
top
make
16
playoffs.
go. We went to the playoffs going 1-9, so go figure. But it meant a lot. And I actually attended the first Beachwood game where we played Warren JFK, and that year they ended up winning state in terms of playing. We played at Stowe, so we took a fan bus out there. I was in 8th grade, so it's kind of funny, but it was a great feeling to have that playoff win, and just to play off home game because we never had that before. So
Sure.
that was a big
And we're
accomplishment.
going to hit on that too, absolutely. As the leader of Beachwood's football program, you ended an 11-year playoff drought, as we already mentioned. You led the Bison to their first undefeated season in school history. You had the first home playoff game in school history, and you get the first playoff win in school history all at the same time. Talk a little bit about those accomplishments and what they meant for not only for you, but the school and community.
I think it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me. I think it meant a lot to the community. I hope it means a lot to the school district. I hope they honor that at some point. Not for my sake, just for the program's sake, what it's been through, especially when all the guys I played with when I was in high school and the guys that played after me who were in search of doing those things. And you know, we had opportunity to do it. We had an opportunity to host our first home game. We had the opportunity to win our first home playoff game. And, you know, the undefeated season, you know, being COVID, I really don't care. We played 6 games and, you know, in that stretch, it was a tough thing to deal with, dealing with COVID. And I also was dealing with some personal issues with my dad. My dad passed away, non-COVID related. So it was a tough go around for me dealing with that.
Sure.
Along with starting back up the season, and there was a point where I didn't really want to come back.
Yeah.
And COVID kind of was a blessing in disguise. No disrespect for those who we lost, but it gave me that time to kind of stay away a little bit. And my assistant coaches stepped up big time for me to fill in when we were doing those 10 player pods. And again, you know the drill.
Yeah, I talked to Butchko about that. Those 10-player pods, those long days, you know, it was long.
Long days. But yeah, it means a lot to be able to say I was there coaching and leading that team to those accomplishments.
Sure. You were also a standout athlete during your days at Beachwood. As I mentioned, you were a 1994 graduate. You were a 2-time All-Ohioan, an All-Ohio in multiple sports, which is almost unheard of now. I read somewhere that you are the only athlete to ever do that. Does that still stand today?
That is not true. Regis White, who was All-State in football and basketball, and he's up on the wall as well.
Okay.
I wasn't the only one. I think it's just me, and DeJuan Gray was baseball and football. So there's 3 of us, I believe, that's up on the wall for 2 sports.
Okay.
And yeah, but you know, more so than that, me being up on the wall twice and being in the Hall of Fame, it was more gratifying when I coached Ben Connor, and he was All-State.
Sure.
And I was able to be at his presentation, and his picture's like right above mine.
That's awesome.
And,
so that's cool. That's the good
that's,
stuff right there.
You know, more so me being up on the wall, but to coach a guy and to say, listen, man, you're up there, he's up there with his coach, that's forever.
Sure.
In my mind. And that's, to me, a little bit more gratifying than seeing myself up there.
Absolutely. And that was like my last year at Cardinal. There was about a handful of first-team All-Ohioans, and I was fortunate enough to coach Mike Soltis, the left tackle, and to put him up on the wall is just, you know, gratifying for me.
Yep.
Getting into what would be one of your final off seasons at Beachwood, there was a lot of stuff that went down in a 2-month span from March to May in 2019. March 18th, 2019, an email was sent out to players, parents, and families. The email was sent out from Beachwood's administration. The email informed families about an ongoing investigation of allegations of illegal recruiting. Can you talk a little bit how these allegations kind of surfaced?
Well, what I can say about that, you know, it was a situation of the administration thinking I was illegally recruiting players and families into Beachwood. I can stand here and look you in the face and on my kid's life say that every kid I had in Beachwood was living in Beachwood. I had really nothing to do with that. Through that, I got non-renewed, got fired, which is the easy and nice way to say it.
Sure. That's my next part too. Yeah.
And at that point, for me, it was about, you know, clearing my name.
Sure.
And, you know, through the whole process, you know, my reputation got tarnished. There were things that people perceived about me that really weren't true. So what I can say is, there were allegations that I did it. There was a thorough investigation by our district. There was a thorough investigation by OSHA because our district took it to OSHA, and they were baseless, and it all came back clear, and Beachwood had to give my job back. So I look at it, it's unfortunate, especially coming from a place that you call home, and I regret them not coming to me and asking me sitting me down and asking me. That's what hurts the most. Them making those assumptions that they did, because I didn't do what they did or what they thought I did.
Right. On May 10th, almost 2 months after these allegations surfaced, the Beachwood School Board voted in favor not to renew your contract, as you mentioned. But then 2 weeks later, on May 23rd, the school board voted to rehire you.
Mm-hmm.
What transpired in those 2 weeks from essentially firing you to rehiring you?
Well, I can say I had to defend. I defended myself, and I wanted to protect myself and my reputation. I know there were a lot of people in the community that came out and supported me, and I'm forever thankful for that. Those folks. Went to a board meeting where it was packed with players and parents who I've impacted that came forth in my honor to just let them know that. So it was a situation of me having getting counsel to do what I needed to do to protect my name, and that was the only reason why I did that, so that the reputation of me stands firm and strong in who I am.
Absolutely. And that kind of, I'm going to bring up kind of what happened with me at Cardinal this past year is I could have the opportunity to resign right off the bat, and I didn't, because it's about fighting for what you believe in, fighting for your name, like you said, clear your name. After being rehired in 2019, after the investigation's finally over, the Bison go 8-3 overall and 5-1 in the conference. Then in 2020, you go 6-0 overall, first playoff victory in school history. After that 2020 season, you resign as the head football coach at Beachwood High School. Did everything prior to those 2 seasons lead to your resignation?
I can say I'll give you this perspective. It was hard coming back and for a group of people to fire you, and then me getting my job back, and then having to still work with the same folks that kind of didn't want you around.
Absolutely.
So it was very, very tough on me those next 2 seasons to just realistically trust anything that was said, or I felt I had to watch my back a little bit, and those aren't normal, or those aren't things you want to be able to live on or be over your shoulder, wondering who's watching you, or what's this, what's that, and it really wasn't a formal apology or anything like that. So it was difficult, and it did, along with my dad and everything. It was time. I think peace of mind.
Sure, and everything just kind of started piling up at one time.
And peace of mind at that point was more important than anything else.
Absolutely, and it's kind of a shame that you had to fight to clear your name,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end of the day, those people are still watching over your shoulder, but that's a shame. Let me get, where am I at here? I want to tell the listeners a little story. At the end of that 2019 season, the CVC has a meeting to vote with coaches every year. I voted for you for Coach of the Year.
You nominated
and
me.
yeah,
You
I
did.
nominated you for Coach of the Year. I voted for you. I was your sole vote that
Yes,
season.
sir.
Where am I at? I saw how good that 2019 Beachwood team was firsthand. I saw firsthand you guys put up like 50 points on us in like a half, and got us to a running clock. But I knew that other schools weren't going to vote for you solely upon that investigation what happened that same year, which is a shame because I know that you're a damn good coach. But I wanted to share that little story. After resigning from Beachwood, how were you feeling? Because I believe that was your dream job. You went back home, 94 graduate, like I mentioned. taking over your alma mater. How were you feeling after you resigned?
I felt a big relief. And what I can say is I knew I made the right decision when there was no one in administration that pulled me in. Because I think it was a shock to some people, especially coming off the season that we had. Obviously, the kids were shocked and disappointed. But I knew I made the right decision when there was not a principal, superintendent, or athletic director that, hey, let's pull this guy in and find out why and see. And that kind of let me know I made the right decision, and it was a big relief, knowing that I made the right decision. Because at first I didn't know. And like you said, when I got the Beachwood job, it was something I knew I would have to spend some time there turning it around, and we spent the time doing that, and then you finally get it turned around. You want to keep it there. And when I decided to step down, unfortunately, we had some kids that left and kind of decimated the program somewhat. So I knew I made the right decision when that transpired.
Absolutely. After you graduated from Beachwood in 1994, you go on and continue your athletic and education career at Hiram College, home of the Terriers. You earn an awesome award while at Hiram. You earned the Moses Fleetwood Walker Award. Can you talk a little bit about how that honor is received or how that gets given out?
Well, I never knew who Moses Fleetwood Walker was, but he was a African American baseball player that played a long time ago, and basically that award was given to an athlete baseball player that demonstrated excellence in the classroom and was just a good citizen, off the field, and obviously did some things on the field that were good. And it was kind of crazy because my coach signed me up and nominated me for it. I had no clue, and he called me in the office one day and said, "Hey, listen, you got this award." And I ended up having to research him because I didn't know.
Sure, and I actually had to research it too, because actually my girlfriend just graduated from Hiram a few years ago, and I had to research. I'd never heard it either.
Yeah, so I never heard it. It was a heck of an honor that I had to go to a dinner with my parents and everything. So it was really after I got my senior year, I got hurt real bad, and didn't even know if I was going to be playing baseball my senior year. So it was during a down time in my life athletically that kind of picked me up a little bit, winning that award.
That's awesome. That's fantastic, and especially when you don't know what it is, you have to research it, and that's a cool thing. Coach, you're also involved in many organizations and initiatives. In 2020, you become the president of the African American Coaching Alliance that was established in the spring of 2020.
Yes, sir.
How did you become the president, and can you talk a little bit about what the Coaching Alliance is?
Well, my intentions were not to be the president. During 2020, there were so many
probably
things.
got you, didn't he?
There was a lot of stuff going on with the George Floyd, just a lot of unrest in our country, right? And I took it a step further, and I just looked at us as black coaches and how we interact with each other. And I kind of put together a group and start opening up conversations about us and how we deal with each other and the things we do and don't do. Because, dealing with, and most of the coaches that are in the Alliance or organization basically deal with inner city kids. And we have the same issues and same problems that some coaches don't have that teach in either, rural or, white communities. I wanted us to bring our coaches together because I saw a lot of, I don't want to say infighting, but you have kids transferring, and you saw the Heights. You have kids transferring from here to there, which then generates, rifts between coaches. So I wanted to try to put that aside and us stand up and be men and talk about issues that we have. And through the process, we ended up putting together a board, and, people, and lo and behold, people wanted me to be the president because it was my idea to bring people together. Now, we used to have, back in the day, a minority coaches association, which I was a part of. And that kind of phased out just because of just the lack of involvement that we had from black coaches. So, we're just trying to bring some coaches together, We're trying to bring our kids together, network, and just do right by our kids and by each other. You know, we sent a letter to Rootstown when Coach Spiker got fired.
Yeah, I saw that. He actually just got hired as the AD, I believe, over at Crestwood. I could be very wrong. But I'm almost positive he's now the AD, which is awesome.
We sent a letter on his behalf, just stating about their mission statement, what they're trying to do, and backing Coach Spiker and what he did. Because, you know, not too many people, I'm finding out, have the balls to stand up what's right and do what's right. So we appreciate that as an alliance, and we wanted that was like our first big thing that we actually did.
Sure. And I saw on Twitter that you guys actually have an event coming up for the Alliance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
We this is our second event. Last I want to say spring or summer, early summer, we put together a virtual clinic with a bunch of college coaches that came on and to promote our kids. And this next week, January 7th, we're putting together our first annual AAFCA coaches clinic. And we have,
awesome.
We want to just promote us. And, you know, every speaker that's going to present is African American or a minority. We're opening it up for everyone.
And that's what I was just about to ask. Is that for all coaches to attend?
Yeah, we want all coaches to attend, white coaches and whoever you are, white, red, purple. We want everybody to be there.
Where is this event going to be held at?
It's going to be held at the Marriott in Beachwood, right there on Richmond and Harvard. So we're spending the money. We're putting it in a nice venue. It's going to be a nice setup.
Is there a cost for coaches to attend? Is there
$20 per person? If you bring 5 or more, in terms of your staff, is $75. And we feel as though that's a steal.
Oh, that's a steal, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially just getting all those coaches in one building at once. That pays for the event. I'll pay $75 for myself just for that.
Definitely.
Get everyone together.
And you got some young coaches, African American coaches that sometimes don't get the opportunity to speak like some of our peers. We got the young defensive coordinator at Mountain Union, Coach Eli. I hope I said his name right. And we got Coach Gamble, who was at Ashland.
Yep.
Offensive coordinator. I think this is his first year.
When I was over at Kenson, he came into Kenson a few years ago when we had a quarterback named Johnny Kufsick, all state honors, and I remember talking to him a few times.
Yep, and we got some nice young talent that's going to be speaking as well. Coach Culliver at Elyria, Coach Stevens at Cleveland Heights are going to speak. The newly hired head coach at Oberlin High School, Dominic Goodwin, is going to be speaking. Charles Salters, the head coach at Bedford. And I think we have Scott Wally, my defensive coordinator, speaking. Nice. So we got some good topics and things that you know, I think we have stuff we have to offer as well.
Absolutely. And then you're also on the executive board of Build a Bridge, where the initiative is to unify coaches, athletes, and communities regardless of race, class, or creed. How did you get involved with Build a Bridge? I know Hicks brought you guys, you know, brainstormed.
Yeah, it was stuff that we were talking about, and then all of a sudden, you know how Coach Hicks is. He gets on Twitter one late night, puts it out there, and
I love his videos. They crack me up. I keep telling him, like, can you do a better camera view, Hicks? Come on, man.
So I think it became to get a little bit overwhelming with him in terms of the amount of teams that were signing up, and I just offered to help. And then he came to me and was like, hey, do you want to be on the exec board? You want to help me with this? And I said, you know I will. I'll help you do anything. So I guess that's how I came a part of it. But initially we were talking about doing something. We were having discussions, and then Hicks went ahead and, you know, when he has something in his heart, he goes with it. You know that.
Absolutely.
So, I'm just here to be a support to him and help the mission continue to go on.
Can you talk a little bit about the scholarships that Build a Bridge will be giving out? I think it's coming up.
Yeah, we have Coach Hicks put together some scholarships for some kids. I think 2 kids are going to receive a scholarship. I'm glad you said that because I got to get my kids. So any kid that participated in any type of event, we have the Hall of Fame. We have the combine, the food drive that we served food at, and our 7-on-7 that we had out of our place, and any other 2 schools that got together and did something. They have the opportunity to earn a scholarship. So that's great in that sense. So that those kids can reap the benefits. Because putting that on your resume, I think, is big time for those kids.
Absolutely. And anytime earning a scholarship, me and Coach Hicks kind of talked about it a little bit also, because you don't know what their financial home life is,
Yep.
and to earn money anytime to go to school is a huge benefit.
Yes,
and
it is.
It's good for those kids. You crack into the coaching world at Marion Franklin High School, home of the Red Devils. This was your first ever coaching job.
Yep.
How did you wind up at Marion Franklin?
Man, I can tell it was kind of crazy because I moved to Columbus right after school, right after college. Didn't know anyone there. Started working in Columbus Public, and I knew I wanted to coach. And I didn't actually jump into Marion. I actually started coaching basketball first. And I went to Eastmore High School. I think it's Eastmore Academy now. And I just stopped up there, found a school. I said, hey, I'm interested. I'll volunteer. I'll do whatever. And they said, well, I don't have any openings. You might want to go here. So, and they told me Marion Franklin. And I went there. The head coach was Pete Ferguson, an older guy, good dude, kind of legendary around that little area part. And I joined the staff. I coached freshmen. I coached JV. And I coached varsity. So
As a young coach, that's the best thing you can do. Learn as much as you can.
And there was so much stuff we had to do. Like it was actually pretty unique and sweet. And I think we missed those times where we didn't have that much money, so we got money we spray painted the field. So every Thursday night, we spray painted the field. Like after practice, we was spray painted, and we kind of graduated to the big machine we had to stretch the string out and line the field, and we got money for it. So that was what we did Thursday nights. Then we go out and get wings and the papaya juice and have a great time. So yeah, it was a great time for me, and he gave me my first opportunity to be a coordinator. So I had no clue what I was doing.
Sure.
But it was great.
It's
time.
funny how the coaching world works. Is you go here, you apply for a job, and then you wind up here.
Yep.
It's kind of how I got hired at Cardinal originally. I applied for a quarterback's job. I get into my interview, and they asked me, "Do you want to be the head football coach?" I said, "What?" The head coach resigned the night before.
Wow.
So I'm like, that's kind of how it went down with me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, crazy story.
Man.
Absolutely. You coached at many other high schools in your coaching career. Marion Franklin, as we just mentioned, Bedford, Cleveland Heights, Richmond Heights, St. Ed's, Glenville, and now you're at Lorain as the head coach. Do you want to give any shout-outs to any of those schools or anyone that you coached with?
Well, I don't want to forget any names, but I first of all appreciate everyone that gave me an opportunity. Number one, number two, in all of those I took lessons from every place I've been at.
And that's why you were a defense coordinator, quarterbacks coach, DB's coach, so you've coached just about every position.
Yeah, there was Cleveland Heights Mike Jones. Shout out to him, who was kind of crazy because how I even got to Heights and learning how and meeting Kahari was I was actually supposed to be at Warrensville. I got a job at Warrensville coaching, and I ended up getting a teaching job at Cleveland Heights. Well, the AD at Cleveland Heights coached me in high school. He said, "Listen, if you get this teaching job, you got to come over here and coach."
Right, and you got to take that opportunity. There's no choice.
But it was all summer. I was with Warrensville, so it was something I didn't want to do because I already developed a relationship with Warrensville, with those kids,
right,
with the coaching staff. So I had to inform them. I left. I came over to Cleveland Heights. Kahari was just introduced as a coordinator. I wanted to be a coordinator, so I came in there with a chip on my shoulder.
Right.
Thinking that I was better than everybody there, which I wasn't, and and that's where me and Hicks, I don't want to say we butted heads, but it was more so me being the problem because I thought I could do this,
sure.
And I was ready
Absolutely,
to do it. It had nothing to do with Kahari, and then we became Hicks. He sat me down and was like, "Listen, man, if we're gonna do this, we gotta do it together." And Hicks was humble. He came off as wanting help and. From that point on, man, our relationship developed, and I was there. And Mike, Coach Jones saw that, and I guess he said, "Well, listen, I got a young kid here who's eager to have some control and want to do something and learn." And out of the blue, he said, "Hey, you're going to defense." I said, "What?" So I learned. I went over his house on Saturdays after we game planned, drawing up cards. That's when before huddle, had to draw up
Yep.
all the cards. You had to
Yeah.
write the scripts out. So I learned how to be a defensive coordinator.
I'm
and-
lucky enough that I started coaching with huddle.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh,
drawing
you
up
had to
all
watch
those cards.
the VHS tapes. You had to rewind, and you had to chart everything with pencil and paper. And some people still do. My
Yeah.
defense, Scott does it too. But it was something I wasn't expecting, and it was probably the best decision that was ever made for me.
Sure.
And I always thinking, but I thank everyone that through the good and the bad, I learned what to do and what not to do, and it helped me become the person I am today.
Absolutely. Around a month after resigning at Beachwood, you get hired at Lorain High School in February of 2021. In an article I read, it said it was very unexpected. Why was it so unexpected to get hired there?
Because I wasn't looking for it. The moment I kind of was just going to go be an assistant, I was content, peace of mind we talked about earlier, right? And a buddy of mine reached out and said, "What do you think about the Lorain job? It's open." I said, "Lorain? I don't want to go out there. Forget that." But
I still said that. You have a long drive every day.
It's a long drive every day. But I always knew about Lorain. And there was one particular game. There was Scott Watley, and Watley was over at Cleveland Heights, and they talked about in Hicks when they played this Lorain, how they had these three dudes that were just dudes,
Yep.
and how they should be their top notch. So I always kept that in the back of my mind. So to make a long story short, I told my buddy of mine, like, "Nah, I'm not interested in that." And then out of the blue, Dave McFarland calls me, who was the coach there previous, and they had gave him the charge to find the next head coach. And he called me, we talked, and Coach McFarland has a unique way of explaining things and talking about situations. So I said, okay, I'll interview. And the more I talked, I actually talked to him 3 times before I even had an interview.
Wow.
And the more I talked to him, the more it sounded intriguing. In the back of my mind, keeping in mind, I knew what, Kahari and Scott,
Right.
would always talk about, how Lorain. And I went and interviewed, and it got more intriguing. And I interviewed again, and the people, that was the biggest selling point with me, was that the people were so, it's like I've never been around, nicer people and supportive people. So that was the biggest thing that got me.
Sure. And sometimes the best thing in life are the ones you don't see coming.
Yep.
In your first season at Lorain, unfortunately, you go 1-10. On your schedule, though, this past year, you had some juggernauts. You had Medina, Mr. Football, Drew Aller, Penn State commit,
Yep.
St. Ed's 2021 state champions, Cleveland Heights 2021 LEL champions. What do you have to do to build the Titans back to where they need to be and should be?
Well, what a lot of people don't know is Lorain was the only school in Lorain County that did not have football 2020. Their administration determined that it would not be safe for them, so they were the only school. So coming into that situation, I knew we were going to be behind, but I did not know it was going to be this big of a problem. And I use that word loosely. It wasn't a problem, but we were so behind. And looking at how our kids are in terms of just coming off COVID, academically, socially, our kids were just underdeveloped socially, emotionally, and athletically. My starting quarterback this year, the last time he took a snap under center was when he was 10 years old, because he was ineligible in the middle school. So we had a bunch of kids like that just never played the game before. And we started a bunch of sophomores who realistically are freshmen.
Right.
And in terms of knowing the game of football, they didn't know. But what we were able to do was to have a spring practice. Where we practiced the whole month of May, and we had to cut that short because of grades.
Sure, and that was kind of nice this past year because you're allowed to coach kids, and that definitely had to help you, kind of move.
And we
in
were
your
a little
first
bit,
season.
and it was a little bit different too, because we were able to get in the full pads, and it was like spring football,
Sure.
like Division I spring football, and it was great. So thinking about that, man, we started in March and finished up late October, so it was a long go. But for us to get to where we need to be, we need the commitment of the kids, obviously, and we're getting that. We have a group of kids that want to get better, that saw themselves get better. As coaches, if you watch our film, wins and losses wise, you wouldn't be able to tell by the average eye. But coaches that can really sit down and watch our film and see what we went through this year with our top 4 players getting hurt, having to play sophomore after sophomore after sophomore, we got better.
Sometimes playing sophomores help you in the long run
Yeah.
because now they're juniors. Now they're ready to play and know what they expect out of them.
So now it's time for us to put the off season together. We're going to start. We actually kind of started already, but the full team is going to start working out here when we get back from school, whenever that is, and start just. We got to keep grinding, and we kind of kept the ship above float. This season, the kids learned how to compete. Biggest thing, we had to teach our kids how to compete, and this season we kind of got to that and got through that. So just head down and work. That's what we're about, and that's what it's going to take for us to get to where we need to be. We're in a juggernaut, Division I, Region I, where there's no cupcakes, man.
And no, there is not.
There's no point to try to pad your record to play a team that's beneath you, because at some point you're going to have to run into the teams you mentioned.
Yeah.
You got to run into St. Ed's, Menor, Medina, so it's just about the work, man. That's what we're about every day. We're going to get in there, and our kids understand what's expected of them now, how they're expected to do certain things, and the weight room is important to that. And we're going to hit the ground running.
Absolutely. In your first season as the head coach at Lorain, you hired a controversial coach in Marcus Watley as one of your defensive coaches. He was involved in an incident over at Camp McKinley, which I'm not going to get into. You guys have coached together before, know each other, long life friends. Can you talk a little bit about Coach Watley and what made you bring him in as one of your defense coaches?
Actually, I brought Scott Watley, who was at Cleveland Heights. He wasn't at Camp McKinley.
Okay.
So Scott Watley was at Cleveland Heights. We have a history together in terms of playing ball against each other.
Okay.
And I coached against him when I was at Glenville at JFK. So the Marcus Watley and Scott Watley are two totally different people.
Oh, okay, so different coaches.
Different coaches, but he spent a 10-year at Cleveland Heights with Kahari and Coach Stevens.
Okay.
And it was kind of controversial in that sense because he kind of came on my staff, and it was crazy in a sense because I was talking to him about this whole Lorain thing. His wife works in Lorain, and he was doing the whole process of me interviewing. He knew a lot about Lorain, and ever since I've been coaching, me and Scott said we were going to coach together, right? And every time I would ask him, nah, I'm good, I'm going to stay here. And, he has a son out his son is at Cincinnati. He's actually traveling right now to the bowl game at Dallas, Texas to watch his son play.
Fantastic.
And he came out, and I said, jokingly like I always do, Scott, if I get this job, you coming? He said, Creel, I'll come. And I kind of paused. I'm like, what?
Hey, you serious?
You serious? And he was like, yeah, man, I'll come. And I knew that was the guy that could help me, get this thing going. And yeah, man, he came, kind of ruffled Cleveland Heights' feathers just a little bit because
Sure.
it was out of the blue. They weren't expecting it, and I wasn't either. But good coaches are hard to find, as you know. And I was able to have him join my staff, and I didn't have to pull his leg. So it was a great feeling having a guy I trust so much that I don't have to worry about the defense.
Right.
And he was pretty much, he ran it, he did his thing. Obviously, he ran it through me, things which I appreciate. And anything I wanted to see, he did, and vice versa. So, but pretty much it was his side of the ball, and I kind of stay on the offensive side of the ball. And he's been a head coach before. He's got the head coach experience, so I was cool and happy with that.
So I just completely messed up that whole Watley story.
Yeah,
I heard someone told me controversial Watley story. I was just thinking, now it makes sense to me that it was Watley that left Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
Now it all makes sense.
Yeah, they were a little bit disappointed.
funny.
Yeah, they were a little disappointed that he came and it kind of ruffled some feathers somewhat, but it's all good.
That's all
It's all
right.
good.
It all works itself out.
Yes, it does.
Last but not least, I want to talk about the football camps that you have ran with Ted Ginn Jr. For listeners who might not know who Ted Ginn Jr. is, he was a standout athlete at Cleveland Glenville High School, played college football under Jim Tressel at Ohio State. He spent 14 seasons as a wide receiver in the NFL, played for the Saints, Dolphins, 49ers, Cardinals, Panthers, and Bears. Can you talk a little bit about these camps that you and Ginn ran together?
Yeah, we actually did one camp when I was at Beachwood. I was working real closely with Ginn Elite and Good to Great Sports. Travis, who played at Glenville, and there was some other guys there that had a program, and they had some youth programs. We wanted to put together a camp. We just wanted to do a camp. And I was fortunate enough, obviously, being in Glenville to be around some guys that's made it. And
some dudes. You were around the Cardell Joneses.
Yeah,
you were around some.
Yeah, so my
dudes.
first camp at Beachwood, I had Cardell come speak, and it was a big time. I mean, I owe Cardell to this day that he brought excitement with him, obviously, and it was perfect timing because it was right when he beat Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that summer off, he came in and he was like top notch. He was the talk of the town.
That was a game he went into like he wasn't even the starting quarterback.
Right.
He got thrown into a game and he lit it up.
Yep, and he had the 12 gauge slogan that he copyrighted, and I had him and Ginn come in and a couple other guys come in later, years after that, and then I got with Good to Great and Ginn Elite and said, let's do a camp, man, and let's try and get as many kids as we can the opportunity to play some football. And they had a good surrounding, and I had all my kids in my community, and we wanted kids everywhere to be a part of it. And we had some star pack power that day. Obviously, Ted Ginn Jr. was there. We had Crabtree, the receiver that played with Michael Crabtree.
I believe he went to Texas Tech, if I remember correctly.
Yep. We had I got Travis Kelsey to come, which was a big draw. Christ's sakes, who else was there? We had Shelton Gibson from Cleveland Heights who played with the Eagles.
Yep.
We had Marshawn Lattimore. We had Chris Worley.
So this is a big lineup,
we had
kids got excited, jacked up for that.
It was. We had the drone going. We had the music pumping. We had about 400 to 500 kids.
That's
it was
awesome.
a 2-day camp.
That's great.
It was a beautiful thing, man.
Again, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Especially when NFL players come down, you know it's a special thing, and those kids are just excited to be around. They might not know lick football, but they know who Travis Kelsey is.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
As we near the end, Coach Creel, you'll be the third person to sign the coach's wall.
Yes,
third coach, go ahead and sign that bad boy. Make sure you don't hit the table because Hicks sacked Brady last week. As you sign the wall, I just want to explain each coach I have on the show will have the opportunity to sign the wall as he's signing. Before we end the show, as always, I want you to tell the listeners and the viewers who Coach Damion Creel really is. For the people who might not know who you are, who is Coach Creel?
Coach Creel, a guy trying to figure it out, man. God-fearing, family guy, a husband, father, and a guy just trying to figure it out. And I'm here to impact kids that need impacted. I think we have a generation of kids that are lost. We have a generation of kids that just need mentorship. And we have a generation of kids that just need some structure and discipline. And what I'm trying to do is, I think it's purpose. I think it's God sent for me to do through the game of football and using the game of football to help these young men and young people get to where they have to be. And sometimes they don't see it in themselves. So we have to breathe the life into them so that they can see it. And that is who I am. I'm just a guy just trying to figure it out.
Just trying to find your way.
Just trying to find my way.
I love that answer because we used to have a saying over at Kansas, just find a way. Just figure it out, figure it out. So it's kind of funny. Coach, once again, I thank you for being here and taking the time to sit down with you. Appreciate the time.
Boss. Appreciate you.
Also, I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. And this is the first time I'm going to be announcing it. Tune in next week for episode 4. I'm going to diving in with Dodd as we sit down with the head coach at Eastlake North. Thanks to everyone that has listened in, and we'll see everyone later.
Welcome to The Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is The Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is The Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.